scheduled for additional public hearings during upcoming joint county Board of Commissioners and City Council meeting. Decisions on conditional use permit applications may be appealed to the County Board of Commissioners and the City Council by submitting a letter to the Planning and Zoning Office within 5 business days. All right, with that, I will do a roll call for the Lincoln County side. Commissioner Hogan?
Here.
Commissioner Green?
Here.
Commissioner Poppins?
Here by phone.
And Commissioner Jungley's here. City Sioux Falls?
I'll do a roll call on the city side. Commissioner Braden,
Here.
Commissioner Dana,
Here.
and I think we got John on the phone.
Present.
All right.
All right, we have a quorum for the night. Approval of the minutes for tonight. Any, everyone's had a chance to look at them? Any changes or any questions for tonight, Lincoln County? All right, with that, I will, City Sioux Falls?
City Sioux Falls side, any questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, move for approval.
All right, Lincoln County, I'll do roll call for, or kind of a motion for approval, sorry.
I'll make a
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, Green.
Motion second, I'll do roll call. Commissioner Hogan?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Jungley is also a yes. City Sioux Falls?
On the City of Sioux Falls side, I'll look for a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Fisher, second by Braden. Can you get a roll call vote? Or all in favor say yes.
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 Yeah.
Opposed? Passes on the city side, 3-0.
Thank you much. We'll move to approval of the agenda. Mr. Brown, any changes to the agenda tonight?
No change, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you much. City Sioux Falls, or I'm sorry, Lincoln County? Ask for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the agenda is published.
I'll second it.
All right, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Hogan?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Jungley is also a yes.
On the city side, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Can I get a roll call vote? All in favor? Commissioner, I guess, Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Nisus?
Yes.
Commissioner Paulson?
Yes.
It's approved on the city side.
Thank you much. All right. At this time, I'll ask for public opinion or input on anything not on the agenda tonight. So is there anything you want the planning commission to know, talk about? Please step up to the podium and let us know. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input on non-agenda items. Mr. Brown, any consideration of unfinished business?
None, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. With that, we can move into public hearings, item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This first item is an application for a conditional use permit. This is for an oversized accessory building, proposed 1,536 square feet. The applicant and property owner is Jeff Hasselbrook. Location is approximately just a little over 2.25 miles to be southeast of the City of Sioux Falls corporate limits. This is within the Whispering Ridge subdivision. Subject property, as you can see, is Zone A1 agricultural. It is improved with a single-family dwelling on the property and no existing accessory buildings on the property. The applicant did submit a concept plan or site plan with the application. As you can see, the new accessory building would be just to the east of the existing single-family dwelling along the property line on the east side of the property. Staff did review the application, did have some discussions with the applicant, identified that this application is consistent as an oversized accessory building. Again, the zoning ordinance, the joint zoning ordinance requires accessory buildings over 1,200 square feet in a subdivision to receive a conditional use permit prior to construction. Staff did identify that this application is consistent with the Code of Ordinances and does recommend that, again, it is consistent and does recommend, if approved, that the 7 conditions that were placed in the staff report be associated with the approval of the permit. In discussions with the applicant intends to utilize the structure for personal storage, which is permissible. The conditions that are placed on the permit are standard conditions that we place typically on oversized accessory buildings, and that's that no business can be run out of the structure. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Lincoln County and Commissioners for staff, or questions for staff? Seeing none. City, Sioux Falls?
On the city side, any questions for staff?
Is this in an HOA?
I did discuss that with the applicant. He did not know if it was within an HOA or not.
Okay.
But we typically don't enforce those covenants within the HOA.
Okay, so how does that work? Usually does the HOA supersede the county approval or vice versa, or?
Vice versa. So, and the next part about it's a civil matter between the HOA and the property owner.
Got it.
So,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
So, yep. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, with that, we'll ask the applicant to come forward and talk about their application.
I don't have anything else to add. He covered it all, so.
Could, for the record, you state your name and address, please?
Jeff Hasselbrook, and address 27084 Mariah Place, Harrisburg, South Dakota 57032.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Could you tell us about your application?
Just looking to put it up for storage, work on personal vehicles and stuff like that, so.
All right, Lincoln County had questions for the applicant. No?
On the city side, any questions for the applicant?
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application to come forward and speak. Seeing none, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application to come forward and speak. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input. And is there any discussion between Lincoln County and City of Sioux Falls? All right, in that case, we'll ask a motion for Lincoln County.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, Green?
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, I'll do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Jungley is also a yes. Passes on Lincoln County side.
On the city side, could I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Do I need to make it contingent upon the 7 ordinances or the 7 contingencies listed on here?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve with the 7 conditions.
Perfect.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the city side?
Mr. Chair, I'll just say I think this is pretty consistent in what we've approved in the past, so I'll be in favor of it.
Good. With that, I guess, take a roll call vote. Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Nisus,
Yes.
Commissioner Paulson,
Yes.
passes 3-0 on city side.
All right, congratulations, Jeff. Everyone likes a new shed. All right, Mr. Brown, item number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this next item is a conditional use as well. This is a request for a building eligibility transfer. The applicant and property owners are Jesse Vandestroot and Ruth Wiersma. And the location of this is approximately 1 mile south of the city of Sioux Falls corporate limits. It's also adjacent to Highway 11. Subject properties, there's essentially 4 parcels that are on right here, if you can see where I'm circling them there. These are existing lots of record. So in 1995, when Lincoln County established density zoning, or the 1 per quarter section, they established lots of record. Subsequent to that, the city of Sioux Falls and Lincoln County engaged in a joint zoning ordinance, which carried that policy over into that area. And so these are existing lots of record. There's 21 lots of record that are platted lots. These were platted a long time ago as part of the original town of Schindler, or platted to the town of Schindler. The subject property is currently agricultural use. There is no development. There is 1 single-family dwelling to the southernmost parcel along Highway 11. That house, our office has received an application to demo that house, and then there's also an accessory structure on there. So that will be in the process of being removed. That parcel is also, Jesse Vanderstroot is the one that owns the majority of the property. Ruth Wiersma, who is a sibling, she actually owns that property that is the house. They're also in the process of transferring ownership of that. And so that'll be, as part of the approval, is that it'll require that to be transferred to Jesse, so it is in conformance with the regulations. So the purpose of this application, the applicants purchased the property, I believe, towards the end of last year or sometime in the previous year, with the eligibilities, with the intention that they would be transferring the eligibilities for development of a housing development. And so the city staff and county staff have been working with the applicants. There was different ideas and different proposals for how it would be utilized. But then where we're at today is that, and this is a pretty common practice, where we would transfer the eligibilities, and then the second step of this would be is that they would establish a preliminary subdivision plan, which will come back before this body for review and approval. But at this stage, we're transferring the 21 eligibilities to the adjacent parcel, which would be to the west. So staff has reviewed this application. We've had many discussions with the applicants and identified that this application is consistent with the Code of Ordinances, and would, if approved, identified 6 conditions that were within the staff report. These are very standard conditions that we typically put on the county side and on the city side for transfer of building eligibilities. There is one unique, though, to this approval tonight, and that is number 2, which states that any platting of the property would be in accordance with Chapter 157, which is the subdivision ordinance of the city of Sioux Falls. Again, this property is governed by that ordinance for splits and platting. And then the second part of that sentence is the subdivision standard minimum improvement shall be the same as those required within the corporate limits of the city of Sioux Falls. So essentially, the recommendation is that the development of that property would correspond to what would typically be a subdivision within the city limits of Sioux Falls. Okay, that's with those improvements: water, sewer, roads, streets, and that. But again, so if approved, those are the 6 conditions that are recommended by staff. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Lincoln County's, any questions for staff?
What is the
Mr.
need?
Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Poppins.
Toby, just for clarity, and forgive me for not being there, it adds a little confusion. These were just lots of records prior to, they were not part of the 1 for 40 rule, correct, originally?
Correct. They were lots of record. They were platted lots.
Have you had council consider the intent of moving eligibilities were the 1 for 40 versus lots of record?
It's per the ordinance that so we establish what we'll call the building eligibility is the 1 per quarter. But there's an exception to the 1 per quarter within the ordinance, so that if there was a platted lot at the time in 1995, those also retained a building eligibility. So potentially, Commissioner, there could be more building eligibilities if there was existing lots of record available, which we see that periodically in the county.
So my question though still remains, was the intent of the ability to move a building eligibility intended for such a thing, or what I believe was strictly the 1 per 40/40 rule initially? Could you add any clarity to that?
Yes. We've discussed with legal counsel, and it's been a common practice that we have transferred lots of record as well.
Yeah, I'm not positive that that was the intent, but I can see that if we had been doing that as a practice, that we would follow that practice. Not excited about that, because what would be the difference if we had a pre-existing subdivision, just because it was platted, they could literally move all of those pre-platted lots of 95 to adjacent property. I don't believe that would have been ever the intent of allowing somebody to move an eligibility.
All right, Lincoln County Commissioners, any other questions for Steph? All right, seeing none. City of Sioux Falls?
Anybody on the city side have questions?
What's the neighborhood directly to the north?
Elm Acres would be that development.
Elm Acres?
Yep.
And that's on city water and city sewer
No.
as well?
No, it is not.
And this would be, or this would not be?
It would not be serviced by city, but it would be developed and available for city infrastructure to hook up to it once the city gets there.
Got it. So each house would have its own private septic, and then it'd be on Lincoln County rural water?
Yes. So they essentially be deadlines until the city annexes it and then would connect to it. But it would be built and established that it could be converted then or retrofitted to the city. Again, this map that I just pulled up is a parcel browser. It shows where city limits are. And again, I believe, and Fletcher will correct me if I'm wrong, but I know the city's going through the process of updating the development growth areas and infrastructure areas. And Fletcher will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is going to be in a tier 1 area for that development, correct? Or is it tier 3 or what? Tier 3, okay, sorry, tier 3.
I have a question. Any discussion on annexation, on how that process would work? Is there an automatic annexation or?
So, from the city's standpoint, Fletcher Laycock, urban planner, City of Sioux Falls. From the city's standpoint, what we're looking at is a development being proposed, which the reason for asking them or requiring them to design to city standards is the issue of annexation, that when we do eventually get to this area in 15, 25 years, that everything is in place so that the property owners at that time can annex without having to put $100,000 in to build the road out. So that's kind of the intent of it. And as Commissioner Poppins was asking, what the intent of transferring the building eligibilities, the intent of that is to preserve rural land. So in order to take those building eligibilities from one parcel of land, cluster them in another area, and then the land that you transferred that eligibility from would remain ag. So it's a lot going on behind the scenes, but the intent is that in the future, if this develops in the future, when the city comes in with utilities, the sewer line is in, and the roads are built to city design standards, so.
Would they also be like drainage and everything and held to
That,
those standards?
everything for the subdivision would be built to city design standards.
Thank you.
Can you flip to the site location map? Just so we can see a little bit better. You know, I see the lots and then the area around the lots. What is that proposed to be? Is that just a very large setback? Is that drainage?
They would say. So at this stage, that's a concept plan.
Okay.
I think we still, if this is approved, we would still need to go through the preliminary plan process, and there might be some changes to that. That's just the initial plan that they presented to staff to work with, so.
The consideration here is just the transfer of the building eligibilities, not necessarily what they're gonna do with them.
Right.
Correct. The placement of them will be in this step 2.
And where are those building eligibilities being transferred from?
From those lots on the east
Just from-
side.
just from the
To
lot.
the adjacent parcel, yeah.
Okay.
I'm stalling out here, let's see. There.
So Toby, this will have to go through a rezone and preliminary plan process, no?
It will not go through a rezone, it will go through a preliminary plan process, though.
It'll
So
remain
it'll-
ag?
Correct. This will remain zone agricultural, yeah.
If the rest of the development would want to be developed outside these 21 housing eligibilities, then it would need to be rezoned outside of these 21.
So the issue also is that, that with there not being sewer out there, there needs to be a minimum lot size for those septic systems. And there being county water, so that would be 1 acre. So that's how we would get to the, keeping it as agricultural, yeah, zoning.
What's unique about this is that we typically, as Commissioner Poppins was pointing out, we transfer eligibility 2 or 3 at a time. They don't become subdivisions. This is a large number of lots that will require a subdivision plan with it. But again, when we transfer, the concept of building eligibilities is that we allow a single-family dwelling without zoning change. That's allowed within the ag district, so.
Can you explain the house in the, that'd be the south, is that the southeast corner that's requested to be demoed? Who is that owned by? Is that gonna be absorbed into this lot? Just the line goes around it. So what's the intent there?
So the intent there is that Ruth Wiersma is the owner of that property.
Okay.
And that property is dilapidated at best. And I believe that Ruth worked with, I believe they did some police law enforcement training on the property. And now they're gonna demo it and take it out, so that essentially that becomes a eligibility that's one of them that's gonna be transferred to the other property.
And then that lot will just remain,
Ag, just
Well,
as is. Yep.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Again, this is a little bit closer picture, but these are so as you look at this, and the county side will know that you're gonna say, well, there's just one parcel there. Over time, throughout the years, the county allowed combination of lots into a parcel for, instead of getting 12 tax statements, you would have got 1 tax statement. So underlying this, there is a plat with all of those lots. And as Commissioner Fisher pointed out, this would be the lot where there's an existing single-family dwelling on it that we've authorized a permit to demo that property. And so that eligibility will be moved over as well. So all of the eligibilities that exist along here will be transferred to this parcel. Okay?
Thanks, that helps a lot, that's what I
Yep.
was.
And then
So
it's-
that far southeast corner then, that's a separate farm owned by that little cutout on the, I think Dashel owns it right in the bottom right-hand corner.
Yep, so Jesse Vandestreut owns this parcel and this parcel. And so the proposal would be, if this is approved, we'll work with them on a preliminary subdivision plan, which, as you can see, the concept plan goes across these property lines. This will all be replatted at some point in time and combined. So there's some moving parts beyond it, but that's kind of step 2 in the process, which is the preliminary plan. Again, the first step is does this meet the requirements to transfer, and then do the boards concur with staff's conditions on the approval of the permit, so. Okay. The applicant and their consultant is here tonight if you have any further questions about that, so.
All right, Commissioners, any further questions for staff?
Thank
Not
you.
at this time.
Did you have a question, Commissioner Poppins?
No, I just stating not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'll ask the applicant to come forward and talk about their application. Or their representative.
I'm John Deasons with JSA Engineers, 1403 East 63rd Street, Sioux Falls. Toby basically went over the project pretty well, covered everything. We're wanting to subdivide this ag land into single-family homes. As you mentioned, it would be to the City of Sioux Falls standards, which we understand includes installing the sanitary sewer and water main to city standards at this time, even though the city sewer isn't in the area. Therefore, there'll be septic systems and drain fields for each lot being 1 acre plus. When city sewer is available, then the houses will switch over to be on the city sewer system. So it'll be on Lincoln County Rural Water, put in 8-inch water main and fire hydrants, and eventually would switch over to city water when that's available. So that is basically the project.
So there will be fire hydrants for fire protection and all that in that division?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Lincoln County, any additional questions for the applicant? All right, City of Sioux Falls?
Any questions for the applicant in Sioux Falls?
Will there only be one access into this development, or is there a second one planned?
There's just one access at this time, but we're also platting 2 other accesses for future when the city sewer and water gets there, and they would have options for further development at that time.
Thank you.
Then additional accesses would be in there.
I'm guessing we'll get asked, but what is the plans for drainage in this development?
We have a retention pond in the center. So basically it'll be mostly surface drainage and storm sewer to the retention pond. And then it flows to the east and then south along Highway 11 in the ditch is the outlet.
And you'll be building all the streets with curb and gutter and asphalt?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions from the city side?
Thank you, John.
Yep.
All right, at this time, I'll ask anybody in favor of the application come forward and speak, please. Seeing none, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application come forward and speak. All right, with that, I'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask for discussion between City of Sioux Falls and Lincoln County before we go to motions.
No, I think staff's job in explaining what they were actually doing, I think was very helpful. So it's, understanding now we're only really talking about the transferring of the building eligibilities within an area that, is already pre-existing. So, seems pretty straightforward.
Any comment?
I'll agree with that. And I think, it seems that there's building eligibilities there, and we have a developer that's willing to use them and provide a a good subdivision, so I'd be in favor of this.
Yeah, I also agree. We're just moving housing eligibilities now, so, and.
I'm sure
I
there'll be
mean,
plenty of input on the next round.
Yes, I'm sure there will be. Yep, and I mean, that's a preliminary drawing. We saw it could change 100 times. We're controlling the development right now, putting them in one area rather than we could just have 21 separate houses along the highway. And one of our goals we've established this lately is we want to not create islands out in the middle. And with this, it is outside, but we have the ability for the city to grow and expand and tie right into it rather than have to go around it and retrofit. As Toby said, cost the homeowners quite a bit of money. So the way it's all been set up, I think is a good plan. Commissioners, any further discussion? All right, with that, Lincoln County, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with, I think there were 6 contingencies on there. It's not up on the screen right now, but with the contingencies listed.
I'll second.
All right, any additional questions or conversation on Lincoln County side? All right, with that, I will do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. Passes cities, or Lincoln County, City of Sioux Falls.
Motion is passed on the county side. Can I get a motion on the city side?
I'll make a motion to approve
With the 6 contingencies.
with the 6 contingencies, yes.
I'll second.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion on the city side? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Nices,
Yes.
Commissioner Paulson.
Yes.
It has passed 3-0 on the city side.
All right, thank you. Motion passes with moving the eligibilities. With that, we move on to just making sure, any consideration of new business.
None, Mr. Chairman.
All right. With that, our next item is adjournment. And I'll ask for a motion from Lincoln County.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Green.
I'll second. Hogan?
Motion and second, any conversation? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes Sioux Falls, or Lincoln County. I keep getting. You're Sioux Falls. Go ahead, your turn.
Can I get a motion on the city side?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second, Fisher.
All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.